You're planning to relocate to Canada and you're now confused or you're at the verge of making a decision on which province or which city to actually settle. I have been in that shoe and that is why I'm making this video. So I've been living in Canada for over a year and I can so recall that some months or like let's say like 6 months of my family relocating, my husband and I were literally checking the internet and checking, doing a lot of research because that is what a lot of people will tell you on which city to actually, settle in when we get to Canada. Because you can't just land at the airport and you'll sit there. You definitely need you definitely need to know where you're settling in. Now sit back and let me tell you how to go about this on the easy way. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ifeoluwa. I film about lifestyle. I talk about happiness here in Canada and faith, family, and other beautiful things in between. So, like I earlier mentioned, that I have been in Canada. I've been living in Canada for over a year, and I remember that when I wanted to relocate with my family, we were also, we also had this worry or this concern that where exactly we're going to settle in. Mind you, I relocated from Nigeria to Canada, and in Nigeria, we only have 36 states. And now coming to Canada, where there are about provinces, and each of the provinces also have cities. So it's quite bigger, than in terms of diversity, in terms of, than where I'm coming from. And one of the things that we were in between choosing between the province of Alberta and the province of Ontario. And these actually the reason why we're choosing these two provinces was based on some of our personal concerns, which is number one, what we're considering Ontario, that we had a family member there. And you can agree with me, one of the best, advice anybody can tell you is when you're settling to a new city, you just don't want to go to someone entirely new. You need somebody to serve as a guide. And number two, we were considering Alberta because we found that Alberta is cheaper, and also we had friends also residing in the province. So look at us. We're like, should we go to Ontario or should we go to Alberta? But eventually we settled in Ontario and we're currently living in the city of London. And I'm going to tell you why we decided to settle in the city. So let's start. I have my phone here. Let's start with the provinces that are in Canada. So there are 10 provinces here in Canada. And if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my phone and I'm reading it out. Number one, we have Alberta. Sorry if I didn't pronounce it the same way a typical white person would pronounce it. I'm black and I'm proud about it. We have Alberta. We have, some would say Alberta, but my tongue hasn't really twisted to that level. We have British Columbia, we have Manitoba, we have New Brunswick, we have Newfoundland and Labrador, we have Nova Scotia, we have Ontario, where we have Prince Edward Island, we have Quebec, and we have Saskatchewan. I'm even better now. Before, I always have difficulty pronouncing this last one. I haven't been to any of these provinces apart from Ontario that I have. But somehow you just hear gist, you have information, you have friends. For example, I have my brother living in Saskatchewan, and I also have friends living in Manitoba. I have friends living in Newfoundland, Labrador, and I've also had people like I have another friend also living in Quebec. So you just have random information everywhere. So let's talk about that. So, and now, speaking of each of these provinces, there are prominent cities in each of the provinces. Like each provinces actually have as many. In fact, there are some cities that it is when you start living in Canada, you'll be wondering, are you sure this place is in Canada? So let's talk about Alberta that I know. So I know in Alberta that there are two prominent cities, which is when people land, they either go to Calgary or they go to Edmonton. But recently, I learned that there is another city in Alberta, which is Lethbridge. Now, because I talked about these three cities of Zombie, that is the only city in Alberta. There are more than, I'm sure if I Google it, I'm sure there are going to be more than 10 or more than 20 cities here in Alberta. But there happens to be like three major ones, which is people either go to Calgary, people either go to Edmonton, or people either go to Lethbridge. And I think it's because number one, the population is good, and also it's city like. I think population is also a factor in choosing a place here in Canada. And another place that I know so well is also Manitoba. I know a lot of people actually relocate to Manitoba, and most times they stay in Winnipeg. I know Winnipeg is actually very popular. That's the only city that I know is actually very popular. If you have from any of the cities, you can actually drop in the comment section. Then another one that I know, which is Saskatchewan, is that people either reside in Saskatoon or they reside in Regina. Then when you now come to Ontario, where it is happening, there are more than, I think, let's check. In Ontario alone, yes, in Ontario alone, I think there are more than 47 cities in Ontario. I mean, yeah, there are quite a lot of cities in Ontario. I'm trying to look at it now. How many cities are in Ontario? Oh, my phone, no. Okay, okay, there are about 52 cities in Ontario. 52, a whole 52 cities in Ontario. So, but the information I'm going to be giving you is more focused on Ontario because this is where I live. And when you talk about the population of Canada, the population of Canada is about 40 million. Yeah, it's about 40 million, and that's even small. It's so small compared to where I'm coming from, which is over 250 million people. And even like the Lagos on its own is over 45 million people, and yet a whole country is 40 million. You get it right. I'm sure it might have been increased by now. And majority of that people, majority, or let's say like a larger percentage of the population is residing in Ontario. And I think that's why the booze of Ontario, people will say, oh, come to Ontario, come to Ontario, come to Ontario. I would like to at this point pause and tell you there are different reasons or different factors that make people select a particular province or a particular city over another city or over another province. Number one is if they have a family member or if they have a close friend. For example, I can remember during our home situation, it was we have a family member in Ontario, and it was just a wise decision. And because I am in Ontario, I've also had some of my friends that were also relocating and say, well, if you're where you guys staying? And when they asked several questions, they also made a decision based on information, some of the information that I gave them. So another reason why people actually choose the particular location is also affordability. I will tell you, especially if you're coming from Nigeria like myself, you will agree with me that Naira and dollar, they're like two margin line that can never meet. So all the money that you're holding to your chest, when you come to this season and you change it to dollars, you'll be so shocked. I remember that one of the most expensive thing that I got from my daughter was this winter romper, and I got eyebrows. Kids now they over they grow they grow so fast, and I had to buy this at Walmart. And guess what, they called it about, I think we bought it about $40. And in my head, coming from Nigeria, because I had just recently arrived, I was like, oh, that's over 40,000 naira to buy just one thing, so yeah, that's just that, by the way. So affordability, and then I'm talking about affordability. I'm talking about affordability in terms of housing most importantly, housing most importantly, and affordability in terms of other, utilities, bills, and food is universal. I think it's the same price everywhere. Then another thing again is that people actually choose one city over another is in terms of the weather. In this Canada, I think it's half winter, half every other thing. So, but there are some cities that are colder than the other. For example, the province of Alberta is quite colder than Ontario, and even when you're going to the likes of Manitoba, Saskatchewan, please give them, do like this to them, because you see some temperature reading to minus 40. And for me, that I'm coming from Nigeria, then, which my regular temperature is about 30 degrees Celsius or even more, that people like, you need to even have AC in your house to reduce the level of the temperature. Now you're now moving from 30 degrees or 35 degrees Celsius to now coming to minus 40. I heard that some provinces like Manitoba usually have as high as minus 40, or Saskatchewan they have high, like they have lower. It will be higher, it should be lower, because the lower it is, the colder it becomes. So that's just that. Another thing again, people actually choose one province the easy way to get a job. I'm gonna do a video very soon talking about getting a job in Canada, and I did also have a video on how I got my job in Canada. You can actually check it out. So there's some provinces that is so easy to get a job, and I mean, I'm talking about it's so easy is just in terms of the population. I think the last time that I checked online, Ontario is about 50 million people, and Alberta is like 9 million. Alberta is like 5 million people. So when you compare a city that has about 50 million people, you're also talking about industrialization. There are going to be more job opportunities there compared to cities that have lower population. Oh, what else? What else do I want to also think about? Yes, in terms of another factor that people actually choose a city above another is in terms of maybe they want to come to school, yeah, or they want to get a job, or even for immigration purpose. There are some provinces that they give like, for example, if you're coming, if you for school purposes, there are some provinces that the the education system or the colleges, they are cheaper than the other, or they have a particular course that you want, or some people might even choose it because there are some cities that when you live there for a while, it's so easy for you to become a permanent resident if you are not yet a permanent resident. But if you're a permanent resident, you can definitely settle in any of those cities of your choice, unless you actually PNP. I think it's just for PNP. If you come through PNP, provincial nomination program, that you have to stay in that province for a while. So after landing in Ontario, the next thing on your mind is, where exactly am I going? Where exactly, even if you land in Alberta or you land in Calgary, you're obviously going to have smaller cities in each of these cities. So you're asking yourself, where exactly am I going? So I remember that there are many options on the table. For me personally, I remember I wanted to go to Ottawa. And one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Ottawa was, number one, is that Ottawa is the capital city. So who doesn't like to be close to the Prime Minister house? So I wanted Ottawa, and then because I was into non-profit, so I felt like a lot of non-profit organizations are in Ottawa. But the only challenge is Ottawa is so far from some other places, like where we were at that point. Ottawa was about 5 hours away, like 5 hours drive in the same province. In the same province. Oh my goodness, in the same province. So we felt like if we moved to Ottawa, which is a very good city, is a city that has all the population is amazing. I think there are over 1 million people in terms of the population, and it's just a capital city, but it's so far from like other bigger cities in Ontario. So it was part of the choice, but we did eventually settle for it. So we're considering cities like Guelph, we're considering cities like Kitchener, we're considering cities like Cambridge, Waterloo. So Guelph, Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo, they are kind of very close. If I can get the map, I'll put it on my screen, they're kind of very close to each other, and then we're also considering Hamilton, and places that are close to GT. So there's a particular conception that people have, is that it's good to live close to Toronto, because Toronto is where a lot of, like, it's so easy to get a job. Like, even the 50 million in Ontario, 9 million, over 9 million of the population of the entire 50 million in Ontario are living in Toronto. So most of the people actually get job. Like, I'm really talking, like, I have so many points I want to share. In Canada, traveling is very normal. So you see people travel 1 hour to their work and come back 1 hour, because the landmass is so big. It's so big. So imagine all of this information. You're even confused and telling yourself that, where exactly go? Where should I even settle? So you have to kind of align your priority. So I told you we're considering Guelph, we're considering Kitchener, we're considering Waterloo, Cambridge, because all of these places you will always see Nigerian and their Nigerian community, which is one of the things that you actually need. So another place that we consider was Hamilton, Hamilton is also about 700,000, over 700,000 people in terms of the population. And it's actually very close to Toronto, which is about 45 minutes, just in case you get a job in Toronto, or you get a job in GTA, which is GTA is Greater Toronto area. You can, like, easily commute, because moving, not some people don't get a job in their city, And I remember that, but one of the reasons why we didn't go to Hamilton was, we had that Hamilton in terms of they might have a bit of uh high crime rates. Yeah, crime rate is also part of it, especially when you have small young family or you're raising kids, because people feel like Toronto is so close to Hamilton. I'm not sure, it's not a verified information. Then we wanted to choose Guelph. But you ask yourself, what is in Guelph like that? A lot of people get job in Guelph. I'm not declining the fact, but Guelph is about over 150,000 people. But one thing that actually steered us away from Guelph was the accommodation. Accommodation in Guelph is quite pricey. You are seeing like two-bedroom for about 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, or 2.8, or even 3,000. There's one I was even checking recently that I was literally laughing, was over $4,000 every month, because accommodation in Canada is every month. And you're wondering, excuse me, am I working for you? Am I working for you, dear landlord? So that's that, by the way. We didn't eventually choose Cambridge, or we didn't choose Waterloo, we didn't choose we didn't choose Kitchener, and it was because of our priorities. And one of the major things you want to say is that, where can you get a job easily, and if you're not, like, if you're, because one of the major things that is also important here in Canada is you might have to take like a Canadian education, because you just need it. This is your new home. So if you're looking at taking a course or taking a program, you also want to look for a city that actually offers the kind of program that you want. And that was one of the major reasons why we moved to London, because here in London, you have two big institution, let me just put it that way. You have the Fanshawe College and you have Western University. And I wanted to take a course. I wanted to, like, localize my knowledge, and the Western was a good place for me because it had a course of my interest, and it was one of the major reasons we actually moved to London. Does that mean we're going to be in London for our entire stay or entire living here in Canada? Absolutely not. In fact, tomorrow we can decide to go to Alberta, because here in Canada, a lot of people move. I remember going to a church. There was a church we went, and we met a Nigerian couple. They were, the man is a doctor, and the man, which is the husband, is a doctor. The wife is also like a human resource specialist. And we were just talking, and when they saw her, they were asking us, was like our first month of being in London, and they were asking us that, how are you? What made you to come to London? We just asked them, how are you two? Like, how long have you been in Canada? And they told us they've been in Canada for 16 years. And we're like, oh, that's a lot. They were like, okay, we have more shocking information to tell you. In our 16 years of living in Canada, we've had to stay in Alberta, we've moved to Saskatoon, and now we're in Ontario. It's their third time of moving. And I'm sure if we even poke and ask them more questions, they will tell us many cities they have been to, because people keep moving. People's family reasons or people's goals are changing. I've seen people move from Ontario to British Columbia because they got a job. Or I've also had somebody move from Alberta to down to Ontario because they found a job. One of the things people will tell you, that when you're looking for a job in Canada, don't bind yourself by a province, or don't even limit yourself by a location. Wherever it is good for you, you just have to really, like, it's more of like family goal, family objective. What do you intend to achieve? And usually when you have kids, you don't want to be moving everywhere, obviously. Like for me, my personally, even though I know a lot of people travel a lot, for me, I don't want to travel. I don't want to have to like drive 1 hour because I'm going to work. Because by the time you're even getting to work, I'm sorry if you had to do that, but you might be tired, you might just be exhausted, and I don't know, things happen. So really, so some people do it. Like I've had times that I had to go to Toronto myself, and I had to like do a carpool. We did a carpool. Like if you're traveling to Toronto, you can actually get people to be in your car and all and all. So yeah, so if don't let me even say too much information, because you're new, you had just new, and you're thinking of relocating. Maybe that was what actually made you watch this video, and you're looking at where exactly am I going to settle in. What I would tell you is that relax. A lot of people have been there. I mean, recently one of my sisters was asking me if where should I relocate to? I'm coming to Canada, and I'm like, by the time I talk, she was quite confused. I'm like, she didn't even know. So I now asked her, what is really your goal? What's your field? Okay, for example, there are some provinces that they support some certain career. For example, I've had just people say that if you're a medical person, stay in Alberta, it's quite easy to get your license here. I don't know how true it is. People also say that if you're into oil company, Alberta is better. I don't know how true it is. One thing I know is that Ontario is big, and the thing about Canada is that each of these provinces, they operate individuality as a different entity. Yes, they have a federal law, or they have a federal activity, but each provinces can be a lot different from the other. I remember one of the major things that was guiding my one of the things that attracted me to Alberta there was their, I think maybe their HST or their GST, I don't know, all this HST thing. It's 5%, and here in Ontario is 13%. That is, whenever you go to the store to make a purchase, you pay 13% tax on every purchase, but in Alberta you pay 5% tax on every purchase. And people are like, oh, for me now, you just want to find a way of cutting your cost, but really, I feel like provinces that actually pay more tax, they do also have some benefit. Like one of the benefits that is in Ontario is the OSAP, which is Ontario Students. I'll look for the full name, Ontario Student Assistance Program, which I got. Yeah, I got it. But I think in Alberta they don't have it there. There could be something like a complementary or an equivalent, but I'm not sure. But I know in Ontario there is OSAP, which is good. Like, government gives you grants and also gives some loans to actually school. And sometimes you don't even use the loan; you just use the grant, and you're good. So what I would just say is that you need to list out what means a lot to you, which is number one, do you mind the weather? I also mind the weather. Number two, where do you have your friends and family here? Because it kind of help you. I know people that don't have anybody and they come straight to Canada. Yeah, people just take Airbnb, but just in case you're very particular on community, on relationship, and if even in Nigeria, for example, there is no place that Nigerians are, there is no place Nigerians are not. Everywhere we are, everywhere you go, but everywhere you go, really. So one look at those factors, like what are your goals, what kind of career are you into, where do you see yourself, and I can tell you there is no pressure. If you decide to focus, if you decide to set in a province tomorrow, you can decide to move, because I've just shared the story of somebody that they've been in Canada for 16 years and they've had to sit, or they have to reside in different provinces. So I really hope that this video has helped one or two. I've given you one or two insights about the province to settle to, about your choices, or demystify all of those things. I know that you are in the middle of making decisions, but just relax, take a deep breath. Wherever you decide to settle, you can always move. Yeah, you can always move. All right, thank you so much for watching my video. Catch you guys in my next video. Bye for now.